ability to focus, but kind of making sure that.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Very good afternoon. You're watching NDTV World. Let's get you our top story, and that's regarding Donald Trump. Donald Trump says that he will meet Ukraine's Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine, as soon as this week to sign a critical mineral deal. He added that they will meet at the Oval Office and an agreement's being worked on, further affirming that they are close to a final deal. On the other hand, Europe's participation in Ukraine's peace talks will be needed eventually, but Moscow first wants to build trust with Washington. This is what President Vladimir Putin said, while suggesting that a deal to end the conflict may still be far off.
I will be meeting with President Zelenskyy. In fact, he may come in this week or next week to sign the agreement, and which would be nice. I'd love to meet him. Would meet at the Oval Office. So the agreement's being worked on now. They're very close to a final deal. It'll be a deal with rare earths and various other things, and he would like to come, as I understand it, here to sign it, and that would be great with me. I think they then have to get it approved by their council or whoever might approve it, but I'm sure that will happen.
Indian-American billionaire and former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, who has gone ahead and quit Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency just last month, has entered the race for Ohio governor's post. In an official announcement of his run for the governor's post, Ramaswamy said, "I'm honored to officially announce my candidacy to serve as the next governor of Ohio." However, Ramaswamy, who has cultivated a national profile and has close ties with Donald Trump, will have his task cut out, with top Republicans set to put their hat into the ring. Republican Dave Yost, Ohio's Attorney General and former state auditor, has already announced his bid for the November 2026 election that's likely to draw other GOP contenders. From the Democrats, former Ohio Health Director Amy Acton is also in the race.
I am honored to announce my candidacy to serve as the next governor of the state of Ohio. President Trump is reviving our conviction in America. We require a leader here at home who will revive our conviction in Ohio. And that is why today I am honored to announce that I am running to be the next governor of a great state at the heart of the greatest nation known to mankind, the state where I was born and raised, the state where Apurva and I raise our two sons today, a state whose best days are still ahead. I am honored to announce my candidacy to serve as the next governor of the state of Ohio. I will lead Ohio to be the top state in the country to start and grow a new business. I will lead Ohio to be the top state in the country to raise a young family.
And President Donald Trump has said that tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports are on time and on schedule, despite efforts by the countries to beef up border security and halt the flow of fentanyl into the United States ahead of the deadline of the 4th of March. The tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule, is what Trump had to say. This is what he told a joint news conference with French President Emmanuel Macron. He had been asked whether Canada and Mexico had done enough to avoid the punishing 25% as far as U.S. Duties are concerned. And U.S. President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron have displayed a stark difference, well, analysts have pointed out, in their approach as far as Ukraine is concerned, exposing a divide between the United States and Europe over Trump's bid for a quick ceasefire deal with Russia.
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated, because they are the ones who have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total efforts, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear, we have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging, so they are frozen.
And President Trump refused to call Vladimir Putin a dictator on the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, despite having previously described Vladimir Zelenskyy with the same term, having called Zelenskyy a dictator.
President called Zelenskyy a dictator. Would you use the same words regarding Putin?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens. I think we have a chance of a really good settlement between various countries. And, you know, you're talking about Europe and you're talking about Ukraine as part of that whole situation. The other side has a lot of support also.
Now, in a major policy shift, the United States sides with Russia in Ukraine vote at the United Nations General Assembly. In a stunning shift in its foreign policy, the United States joined Russia to vote against the UN General Assembly resolution condemning Russia's war against Ukraine on Monday. The vote against this is a Ukrainian and European-backed resolution, saw the United States at odds with its longtime European allies and instead aligned with the aggressor in the war on the third-year anniversary of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The United States again voted the same way as Russia later on Monday on a US-proposed UN Security Council resolution that did not call the Kremlin the aggressor or acknowledge Ukraine's territorial integrity. The resolution passed without the support of 5 European members of the Security Council. India abstained along with China, one of Russia's closest allies since the war broke out.
Jessica Stone joins us live from Washington with a roundup of all that's been happening. Jessica, we're seeing an extraordinary shift in U.S. policy since Donald Trump's election. Sharp divides on display between Europe and the U.S. when it comes to resolving the war. Take us through all the latest developments.
Yeah, a lot of division on display, both in Washington at the White House and at the United Nations up there in New York City. Let's begin with the division in the White House. You outlined a lot of the differences between Macron and U.S. President Donald Trump when it comes to Ukraine. During the Oval Office, you saw Macron correct Trump's assertion that the U.S. was giving grants while the Europeans were giving loans. Then during the press conference, which you see there, Macron warned that reaching peace must not mean surrendering Ukraine, a stark warning there, and again emphasizing that he would call Russia the aggressor here. He also added that Europe must provide more security guarantees to Ukraine, which is certainly something that the White House is looking for. Then dueling drafts at the same time at the United Nations in New York City, many dueling drafts, not just the one in front of the General Assembly, but one in front of the UN Security Council later in the day, basically outlining 2 different approaches to this war and to what it is and what it is not. And the Europeans, again, emphasizing that Russia is the aggressor, the U.S. not signing on to that version of events, instead opting for a clean version of just calling for an end to the war. And when pressed to justify that, particularly in light of the second vote at the UN Security Council, the United States said, we just want a clean version. We want to make sure that the war ends, and we want to start with something clean and narrow in terms of doing that. So definitely a different chapter in U.S. positioning when it comes to Ukraine. We'll see if this strategy works as we move through the talks.
And the United Kingdom has imposed over 100 new sanctions directly targeting those who continue to aid the invasion. The European Union too hit Russia with a new round of sanctions. The EU has adopted the 16 sanctions package against Russia to further ramp up pressure on the aggressor, as they call Russia, and also have further targeted sectors of the Russian economy such as energy, trade, transport, infrastructure, and financial services as well. And China's President Xi Jinping has affirmed that his no-limits partnership in a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. China's state media is reporting that the leaders held that talk as Donald Trump has pushed for a quick deal to end the war as far as Ukraine is concerned, raising the prospect that Washington could draw a wedge between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin to focus on competing with the world's second largest economy. Days after his meeting with Bangladesh's Foreign Affairs advisor Tauheed Hossain in Muscat, the External Affairs Minister S. Shankar has cautioned Bangladesh over its inconsistent outlook towards India, advising Dhaka to refrain from some of the ridiculous claims being made against India by leaders of the interim government. It's Mr. Jaishankar who has cautioned, and that caution has come amid Dhaka's increasingly hostile behavior towards New Delhi. Voicing his concerns sternly, the foreign minister said Bangladesh must make up their mind right now on which direction they want their relationship with India to be heading. Now, let's just get you the latest from Canada. And Canada's latest steps to curb migration is likely to have an adverse effect when it comes to tens of thousands of foreign students, including those from India. It will also negatively impact those who apply for work and resident permits, and this is based on the new visa rules. India and the United Kingdom announced resumption of negotiations of the free trade agreement that had stalled for over 8 months following the elections in both countries.
Both Jonathan and I have agreed to resume free trade agreement negotiations in a very, very cordial atmosphere and with great trust between the two governments, which was reflected in the meeting this morning. We will be able to make rapid progress to meet the collective aspirations for trade, investment, and the mutual prosperity of the people of United Kingdom and India. Friends, we have decided to build upon the strong groundwork that 14 previous rounds had developed a win-win for both our countries.
India is a vital partner for the UK. We are lucky to already have such a strong relationship with India, of course underpinned by the living bridge between our countries, the 1.7 million people with Indian heritage who call the UK their home. Of course, what binds us together even further is our shared ambition through championing free and open trade and investment to drive jobs and growth across both of our countries.
And US President Donald Trump backed Elon Musk's demand that federal employees explain their recent accomplishments by the end of Monday or risk getting fired. Meanwhile, attorneys for the workers said in a lawsuit that Musk has violated the law with his weekend demand that federal employees explain their accomplishments or risk being fired. Now, 3 workers were killed and 5 others were injured in South Korea's highway construction site collapse. This is a bridge that collapsed at an expressway construction site. The National Fire Agency said that it has issued an order mobilizing firefighters to search for people missing in the accident. Meanwhile, more than 2 lakh people from Canada have signed a parliamentary petition calling for their country to strip Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship because of the tech billionaire's alliance with Donald Trump, who has spent his second US presidency repeatedly threatening to conquer its independent neighbor to the north and turn it into its 51st state. And with that, we're slipping into a very short break. Back with a whole lot more on NDTV World. Do stay with us.
From tech titan to global philanthropist, Bill Gates has had a huge impact on the lives of millions across the world. As the co-founder of Microsoft, he's in a sense defined what personal computing has been for all of us. The vision that he had of the personal computer way back in the 70s and its evolution and the transformation of Microsoft has been fundamental in terms of tech, in terms of IT, in terms of the entire sector. And it's time now for Mr. Gates to pen his thoughts down, which is why he's come out with this. This is the first of 3 books It's called Source Code, My Beginnings. And it's my great privilege to be over here in Palm Springs, in California, to speak about this. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be over here, fly all the way across the world, and I've had a chance to really go through this book. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you.
One of the primary themes which I found throughout the book has to do with your own intensity. The fact that you've always been driven. I mean, we know that as a fact, but we perhaps didn't know about the extent to which you were focused. And you write, for example, and I quote, "Like one of those watertight hatches on a submarine, I could shut out the rest of the world. Driven by the sense of responsibility I felt for Microsoft, I had closed the hatch door and locked the wheel. No girlfriend, no hobbies. My social life centered around Paul, Rick, and the people we worked with. It was the one way I knew to stay ahead." Could you tell us about how your focus ultimately resulted in you being the Bill Gates we know today?
Well, part of my makeup, even from a young age, was that if something was fascinated, I could really dig in on it. So, learning to play cards with my grandmother, having books read to me, reading books, and mathematics early on fascinated me, and so I went into depth. But then I took that to a new level when I started Microsoft, because I knew, there'd be other people trying to do software, and I decided, no, I'm going to make sure we stay ahead. I was always kind of worried somebody else would do well, and so during my 20s, I was really monomaniacal, not only using that ability to focus, but kind of making sure that software was the only thing that I focused on.
Welcome back. Let's get you the latest from the United States. And it's the Trump administration that's planning to toughen semiconductor restrictions on China, continuing and expanding Biden administration's efforts to limit Beijing's technological prowess. And it's the Bloomberg News that's reporting that the U.S. officials recently met with their Japanese as well as Dutch counterparts about restricting Tokyo Electron and ASML engineers from maintaining semiconductor gear in China. That is what the report has gone on to say, and according to which some Trump officials also aim to further restrict the quantity as well as the types of chips that can be exported to China without a license. Apple has said that it will spend $500 billion in the U.S. investments. These are going to be taking place in the next 4 years. That will include a giant factory in Texas for artificial intelligence servers and add about 20,000 research and development jobs across the country in that much time. That $500 billion is expected to be spent. This is what's going to be spent, including everything from purchasing as well as from U.S. suppliers to U.S. filming of television shows and movies for their OTT platform, Apple TV network. Now, the company has declined to say how much of the figure it was already planning to spend with its U.S. supply base, which includes firms such as Corning that make glass for iPhones in Kentucky. Starbucks has said that it would eliminate 1,100 corporate roles as CEO Brian Niccol has pushed ahead with his turnaround efforts at the coffee chain, which has been struggling with falling sales. "We are simplifying our structure, removing layers and duplicating and creating smaller and more nimble teams," is what the CEO had to say in a letter to his employees. He also went on to name that, of course, he was named the CEO last year at a time when the company's shares had lost 40% of their value from 2021 high due to the weak demand in the United States as well as in China. Credited with turning around burrito chain Chipotle as well as putting in place the Back to Starbucks plan that focused on streamlining business through job cuts and by improving customer experience at its U.S. stores. Tesla has told customers in China that it will update the autopilot software in their cars to add driving assistant features. This is the assistance feature for navigating city streets. The U.S. electric vehicle maker, in a notification on its app, said that capabilities will include automatic lane changing depending on speed as well as the route, as well as detecting traffic lights at intersections and deciding whether to turn or not. And of course, this is going to be an in-car camera that will also monitor the driver's attention. And in an earnings briefing last month, the CEO and founder of Tesla, Elon Musk, revealed that technology restrictions imposed by both the US and the Chinese governments had put the company in a bit of a bind in deploying FSD. He further has gone on to say that Tesla has been using videos of Chinese streets available on the internet to train its AI software, as the United States prohibits on-site training in China. American Express and Alipay have said all global American Express card members can now link their cards to Alipay digital wallet, enabling payments at tens of millions of merchants across mainland China. The initiative not only simplifies transactions for travelers, but also provides local businesses with greater opportunities to attract international customers. The companies have gone on ahead and made that joint statement. Berkshire Hathaway shares rose to a record high on Monday after the conglomerate run by Warren Buffett posted its highest ever quarterly profit, driven by improvement in insurance operations. The conglomerate's Class A shares closed up 28,735 as well as that's a 4% hike at 700,000. This is more than 700,000. We're talking about 747,000 after earlier reaching more than those levels. Those levels surpass even the highest record that has been recorded by some stock price services last June following a trading glitch. In this exclusive snippet, my colleague Gauri Trivedi speaks to Google's, this is the Google DeepMind's Pushmeet Kohli on the future of India's artificial intelligence journey. Let's listen in.
You mentioned about the models. One is that, where does Google find that balance between open source and proprietary? You've got to make money. You're a large corporation. You're accountable to your shareholders. But at the same time, you're talking about scientific innovation that impacts humanity.
Yeah, so I think these discussions, these decisions are taken with a lot of thought. In the context of models like AlphaFold, the decision was taken that this technology, if we share it with the world, that will be the thing that maximizes the impact of that technology. So AlphaFold 2 has been completely sort of open sourced in terms of its weights. The AlphaFold database has been used by 190 countries and scientists, 2.7 million scientists across the world. So it just shows you the accessibility and the democratization power of this sort of technology. In some other sort of models, where you have to sort of continuously make improvement, it doesn't make sense, or it's not very easy to open source every other day as these sort of technologies sort of improve. So we sort of rely on a more closed source mechanism also to sort of protect both commercial as well as safety considerations.
And in a clash between two cricketing giants, it is Australia and, of course, we're talking about South Africa that are both within striking distance of tournament progression. They're all set to go against each other in an all-important Champions Trophy match this afternoon, the match being played in Rawalpindi. The cast of Daredevil, this is Daredevil Born Again, walked the red carpet on Monday in New York City. The Disney Plus series is a continuation of the series that streamed on Netflix for 3 seasons until 2018 in Born Again. The principal cast remains the same, with Charlie Cox playing the blind lawyer Matt Murdock, who as the superhero fights for justice. Once again, he's at odds with Wilson Fisk, the former mob boss that makes a run at politics, along with Vincent D'Onofrio as well reprising his role, and John Bernthal, who has played Punisher, also makes a return.
It's a continuation. There was a slight pivot made halfway through, but where we ended up is it is much more of a continuation. Yeah, what we've tried to do, what the writers have tried to do, which I think is really impressive, is that we don't want to alienate new audiences. So we're calling it season 1, and hopefully the story unfolds early on in such a way that you get to know these characters very quickly, you understand the world. So you don't have to have seen all the back catalogue to understand it, but it's essentially it is a continuation.
And the WWE is teaming up with A&E to let fans behind the curtain to see how WWE superstars are made. Now, reality show WWE LFG, that's Legends and Future Greats, takes 16 hopefuls and divides them into teams of 4 coaches by wrestling legends, Undertaker, and amongst them others as well. The coaches, along with the WWE icons such as Paul, Triple H, and also Shawn Michaels, mentor this new generation of athletes to become WWE household names with a wrestling contract on the line.
There were many opportunities that I had to do things outside of the realm of the WWE. But being true to that character and always making that character first, I think, one, it give it the longevity. When I was on WWE TV for 30 years. So you look at the amount of people through those 30 years who, again, like yourself, had watched the product, got away from the product, come back to the product. Who was always there? The Undertaker.
Fans of fantasy series The Wheel of Time had a chance to see the first 2 episodes of the upcoming season 3 at a special screening event in London. The showrunner, Ralph Jodkins, said that he was excited for the audience to see the show on a cinema screen, as Prime Video series was allowed to shoot widescreen for the new season. He said that having a plot, things out in advance, it's hard to respond to fans' commentaries or their complaints. And with that, we're slipping it away a short break. Thank you so much for watching NDTV World.
From tech titan to global philanthropist, Bill Gates has had a huge impact on the lives of millions across the world. As the co-founder of Microsoft, he's in a sense defined what personal computing has been for all of us. The vision that he had of the personal computer way back in the 70s and its evolution and the transformation of Microsoft has been fundamental in terms of tech, in terms of IT, in terms of the entire sector. And it's time now for Mr. Gates to pen his thoughts down, which is why he's come out with this. This is the first of 3 books. It's called Source Code, My Beginnings, and it's my great privilege to be over here in Palm Springs, in California, to speak about this. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be over here, fly all the way across the world, and I've had a chance to really go through this book. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
One of the primary themes which I found throughout the book
जी का धन्यवाद करता हूं जिन्होंने एसआईटी बनाकर इन केसों को चलाया था दोबारा से 35 साल से बंद पड़े केस थे और सज्जन कुमार जैसे लोग जगदीश टाइटर एचकेएल भगत जैसे लोग कमलनाथ जैसे लोग मंत्री और मुख्यमंत्री और एमपी बने घूमते थे और हमें आंखें निकाल कर दिखाते थे और आज हमें इस बात की तसल्ली है मेरी कम्युनिटी कहीं ना कहीं इस बात पे अपने आप को तसल्ली महसूस करती है कि इन लोगों को कम से कम हिसाब देने का समय तो आया दूसरे केस में सजाए उम्र कैद हुई हम सजाए मौत की उम्मीद कर रहे थे लेकिन मैं फिर भी धन्यवाद करता हूं इसके आगे हम रणनीति बनाएंगे क्या करना है क्या सजाए मौत के लिए हमें जाना हाई कोर्ट में बैठ कर तय करेंगे लेकिन मैं अभी इस पे संतुष्टि है जरूर कि इस लड़ाई में कम से कम हमें ये तसल्ली है अगली बारी जगदीश टाइटर की और कमलनाथ की धन्यवाद
All right, big developments now coming in. We'll get you more reactions also in just a bit. It's time for a quick break. Yeah, we'll be right back.
From tech titan to global philanthropist, Bill Gates has had a huge impact on the lives of millions across the world. As the co-founder of Microsoft, he's in a sense defined what personal computing has been for all of us. The vision that he had of the personal computer way back in the 70s and its evolution and the transformation of Microsoft has been fundamental in terms of tech, in terms of IT, in terms of the entire sector. And And it's time now for Mr. Gates to pen his thoughts down, which is why he's come out with this. This is the first of 3 books. It's called Source Code, My Beginnings, and it's my great privilege to be over here in Palm Springs, in California, to speak about this. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be over here, fly all the way across the world, and I've had a chance to really go through this book. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you.
One of the primary themes which I found throughout the book has to do with your own intensity. The fact that you've always been driven. I mean, we know that is a fact, but we perhaps didn't know about the extent to which you were focused. And you write, for example, and I quote, "Like one of those watertight hatches on a submarine, I could shut out the rest of the world. Driven by the sense of responsibility I felt for Microsoft, I had closed the hatch door and locked the wheel. No girlfriend, no hobbies. My social life centered around Paul, Rick, and the people we worked with. It was the one way I knew to stay ahead." Could you tell us about how your focus ultimately resulted in you being the Bill Gates we know today?
Well, part of my makeup, even from a young age, was that if something was fascinated, I could really dig in on it. So, learning to play cards with my grandmother, having books read to me, reading books, and mathematics early on fascinated me, and so I went into depth. But then I took that to a new level when I started Microsoft, because I knew, there'd be other people trying to do software, and I decided, no, I'm going to make sure we stay ahead. I was always kind of worried somebody else would do well. And so during my 20s, I was really monomaniacal, not only using that ability to focus, but kind of making sure that software was the only thing that I focused on.
Another huge theme in the book, of course, is friendships, various friendships. But let's start out early. Your closest friend was Kent. And you associated with him, you got on very well with him, you found him to be similar with, in many ways with you. You went on long cruises with him. And then you lost him. And you write, "I had retreated into myself, watching a slideshow in my mind's eye, taking through images of recent days, grasping for evidence that what I had heard wasn't true." He died tragically. Could you tell us a little bit about the loss you felt?
Yeah, my childhood really only had this one traumatic event in it. I'd had grandparents die, but at a pretty old age, and I'd never even contemplated the idea that somebody close to me, not to mention my very best friend, would just be killed. He had signed up for this mountain climbing class that both he and I and his parents thought was a little unusual, because that wasn't what he was good at, but he was, once he decided to do something, put huge energy into it. And it was just so shocking. The headmaster called me up, made sure my parents were with me. But I had a few months there where I was just so taken aback that life could have that uncertainty. Who else would die or disappear? And he, was kind of a wonderful kid who I owe a lot to, because the idea of thinking about what career we would engage in, did ambassadors make good money? Did generals? Did scientists? Did CEOs? He got me reading business magazines.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain with me, Radhika Iyer.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
Welcome back after the break. Amid the DMK versus Centre face-off over the three-language policy in Tamil Nadu, DMK student wing staged protest today. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has said that they are ready for another language war. Well, the government in the state has opposed the NEP 2020 and said that it will not allow the implementation in the state. The BJP upped the ante against DMK on the matter and announced to launch signature campaign. Well, State BJP Chief K. Annamalai has said that the NEP does not impose Hindi on students and announced the launch of an aggressive signature campaign starting March 1st for the implementation of the policy.
தமிழ்நாட்டை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் யார் சொல்லணும் நிச்சயமா வித்துறது அதுக்கு நாங்கள் தயாராக இருக்கிறோம்
Condemn the attitude of the DMK cadres, erasing the Hindi words with black tar. This is the public property, and not only the people who knows English and Tamil are not traveling. The people from northern India, our sisters and brothers are traveling. So it is railway station. Railway is connecting all the states from north to south. What authority you have to erase that Hindi words? Erasing Hindi words, but you are making your children to learn Hindi.
Well, actor-turned-politician Ranjana Nachyar also has resigned from the BJP's membership. In her resignation, the politician has said that the three-language imposition on Tamil Nadu was wrong. Well, AIDMK MP M. Thambidurai, meanwhile, has accused the ruling DMK of using language issue as a political tool ahead of polls. Well, the MP said the state stands on the new education policy, pointing out that the government allows CBSE schools which include multiple languages yet raises concerns over Hindi. Well, this is the latest now coming in. My colleague Sam also now joins us on the broadcast from Chennai. Sam, we do understand there's a huge controversy now has erupted between this face-off intensifying between the DMK and the BJP on the other hand, and the actor-turned-politician Ranjana Nachyar also has resigned from the BJP's membership. How do you see this going ahead?
Well, that's surprising. Actually, somebody from the BJP, which is known for its this kind of a policy, the three-language policy, its baby now walking out of the party. That shows, in a sense, the strong views on the ground in Tamil Nadu. For decades, Tamil Nadu has had the two-language policy of teaching mother tongue Tamil and then English to connect with the rest of India and around the world. And she says in a statement that ignoring Tamil Nadu and Dravidian hatred by the BJP is unacceptable. Particularly, she says, I can't be in BJP when there is stepmotherly treatment for Tamil Nadu, and Tamil Nadu ought to excel if India need to be protected. And she specifically points out the imposition of three-language policy that's unacceptable to her. But the BJP otherwise, as a party's stand, is quite strong that it will go ahead across in implementing this program across the country. But Tamil Nadu has stood against this, saying that this three-language formula, no matter what the centre says, whether it's a learning of an additional language or is it a tacit imposition of Hindi, they say there's no need for that kind of an imposition. That choice should be left to the people According to their need, they can learn whichever language they want, but that cannot be an official policy to impose any language of any kind. And today the ruling DMK, joining hands with a few student federations across Tamil Nadu, took to the streets calling this as Hindi agitation, Hindi imposition, and that the state will not hesitate for yet another anti-Hindi agitation. The larger picture emerging is that Tamil Nadu would go for polls next year, the assembly polls, and this issue has helped DMK in the past in building a strong narrative against the center, and it hopes that this issue will yet again pay rich political dividends in the form of a second consecutive term. On the other hand, the BJP, which has very negligible presence in Tamil Nadu, hopes that there is a demand, there is an increased interest among people in Tamil Nadu to learn an additional language, and that way it hopes that it will strike a chord with the people and ultimately be able to expand its footprint. It's going to launch a door-to-door campaign. But otherwise, irrespective of the political divide, except the BJP, the ruling DMK as well as the key opposition, the AIADMK, they speak in one voice saying that the state will not allow the imposition of three-language policy as part of the national education policy.
Well, absolutely. The state, of course, is saying that this is an attempt to push Hindi and Sanskrit through the back door in Tamil Nadu. And they say that learning a third language is practically of no use for the students. But how can they decide on that, whether it is of use for students or not? It is up to the people, of course, up to the students. And we do understand this is definitely politics being played out, as my colleague Sam also has been informing us. Before the elections, this issue seems to have garnered a lot of attention, and this war, this face-off between the BJP and the DMK is not going to stop anytime soon. We'll keep an eye on the developments here. Meanwhile, some more news that we're tracking. The assault of a bus conductor at Belagavi has become the new flashpoint between Karnataka and Maharashtra amid the border row. The bus conductor was assaulted for not responding to a passenger in Marathi. Pro-Kannada groups have upped the ante, taking out a protest march. Several of them were detained.
This video which has been given by the girl and the family saying that we want to take back the case and we don't want to have any such kind of issues based on language or anything, because we're all Kannadigas, we are all one people, so we want to take back the case. So already I have given instructions to my ACP that you please collect a copy of that video, and then you again take the statement of the victim, and according to what has been mentioned in the video and what statement they will give, you ensure that the investigation is done in that way.
Already my Home Minister and my Transport Minister is on the job. It is a peace-loving state. We love each other. We respect each other. We want to be like brothers.
All right, many reactions now coming in there. We have my colleague Nehal also now joining us on the broadcast. Nehal, we do understand, the pro-Kannada groups have upped their ante against the decision being taken here, and we do understand that this matter seems to have intensified. Several of them were detained also. Take us through the details.
One group of the KRV Karnataka Rakshana Vedike, that is pro-Kannada group, had taken out of protest, and they were trying to reach the border of Karnataka, Maharashtra. Meanwhile, they were all taken into preventive custody, and now they are still in preventive custody. After that, the second round has started. It is being led by another group of Karnataka Rakshana Vedike, and they are also planning to take out a protest march from Rani Chennamma circle in Belagavi to the border. But police is determined that they won't be allowed. So again, there may be some more preventive arrest, because once they try to take out, they will be arrested, because as you heard the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Martin, what he was saying, that everybody is allowed to take peaceful protest and to protest peacefully, but violence won't be allowed. Anybody who tries to take law into hands, they won't be allowed. And that is why they are being taken into preventive custody. The Commissioner of Police was talking about one of the two accused who had alleged that this bus conductor who was assaulted had some physically assaulted her also, and that is why they had filed an FIR related to the POXO Act. Now they are going to withdraw it. So there is a procedure, but the final call will be taken by the court. Once the police proceeds, then the court has to decide whether the case can be withdrawn or not.
Well, absolutely. We do understand linguistic tensions have persisted in the border regions of Karnataka, where huge population of Marathi as well as Kannada speakers have often clashed over